Well, hello there, my friends, and welcome back to Carpo's channel. Today I'm going to tell you why your art sucks. Of course, I'm kidding. Your art doesn't suck. Nobody's art really sucks. Well, there are some people whose art really sucks, but they can get better at it, and that's the thing. My art has always sucked to me. And I think for a lot of people who create things with their hands, I'm not just talking about building things, I'm talking about any type of creativity, whether it's even writing or playing music, using your hands to create something from nothing or from scratch is an amazing experience. I'm a musician myself, and so I don't, not a professional by any means, but I've written a lot of songs. I usually just play them for myself and just think, okay, good enough, and move on to something else. I've never really organized. I did play in a band with my brother for a while, and recorded a couple albums, but what I'm getting at here is the starving artist syndrome. It's real, and I want to talk about why, and I hope you'll stick with me because I think you might learn something here. I think many of us create something because we enjoy the experience of creating something. When I was a carpenter, I loved building houses, and that's why I moved into finished carpentry. I was set loose on a spiral staircase by my boss one time. Nobody else wanted to tackle it. It was like a recurved staircase with a cherry handrail and a carpet runner and all this wood on the side. It was a crazy project. Took me like a month or two just on this one staircase to get just the wood parts done on the outside, and I loved it, every minute of it. I was so just engulfed in my experience of making things. Built a lot of stuff in that house, started my own finished carpentry business, and then I got to this point where I was building kitchens with a designer in Portland, and these kitchens were phenomenal. West Hills in Portland, semi-rich kind of neighborhoods with people who had money to blow. And I was building cabinets from my home or on site, for these houses, and it was a great experience to be able to walk into a kitchen and say, wow, I built this, from scratch. But there was a moment where I realized that it was cheaper, of course, to buy from China, and that a majority of people would rather buy something that's mass produced because it's a hell of a lot cheaper, even if the quality suffers. And, I've done a lot of different projects in the past. As I've mentioned, of course, as if you're a subscriber, I have been building guitars lately, and it's been quite an experience. I've had some ups and downs. I've made mistakes. I've drilled holes that shouldn't be there, and holes that went all the way through that shouldn't have gone all the way through. Things like that. And my first few guitars suffered because of it in certain ways. But I'm super determined to make this happen because when I'm building them, I'm in my zone as a carpenter, as a tinkerer, if you will. But why is it so hard for us to charge what things are worth? And that's what I really wanted to get at here. My example would be, okay, I watched a video earlier from, I don't recall which guitar company, but I've watched a lot of guitar videos in the last 2 months to learn how to do every aspect of it. And thank God for YouTube at this point. I mean, if I'd done this even 5 years ago, I never would have had the same access to information that I have now. This is one of the ones I was working on last night. This is, I'm calling it my Frankencaster. It's basically a Stratocaster model, but you can see the back's kind of really curved. And then I have a two-tone, one part stained and the other part isn't. I used a water-based finish, so you can still feel the grain. And then it has like Padauk and Purple Heart for a neck and a bird on the end. That was my plan was to get it to look like a bird, and I'm still kind of working on the design. The fretboard is, of course, covered up right now because I'm protecting it while I do the varnish. But the point is, I didn't drill this cavity deep enough. I have to do some modifications. I could have just as easily just used a standard model Strat body, which I did originally to get the idea for it. But what I'm getting at here is that I found out that, of course, there's a lot involved in guitar planning. We know this. Things are set to very specific depths, truss rods, all these different things people don't think about. When you make a guitar from scratch, the cost can be so high to build one. I've watched a couple different breakdowns, and from what I've looked at in my own research, it's somewhere between $150 and $650 to make a guitar. That's just the cost of materials, not labor. If you've got a whole bunch of inlays and wraps and beautiful like edge binding, I mean, there's so many different things you can add to a guitar. You could spend weeks, months. I mean, this one I built over here could have just been a very simple, basic design, but I ended up adding this flower of life pattern, which I engraved into it, and that took a couple hours to get these in there. And this one's also the same type of finish. This is the one piece that I started with, and so I started thinking, how much can I sell my guitars for? Well, maybe I should sell them for like, I don't know. I want to sell guitars for $600. I can't fucking do that. The cost I spent on this stuff is way too much. And I start thinking about the time I spent, and I think, man, I'm going to have to take a loss. And then I'm right back to square one, where I was every time I started a project. The same thing happened doing resin jewelry. I have these bracelets that I'm going to eventually put up for sale, but most of them are blacklight reactive, glow in the dark. There's all different kinds of patterns. Some of them have cannabis or kratom or moss in them, and many different designs, cuff bracelets, hair wraps, bangles, all this stuff. This was when I was in my resin phase. And then I started seeing these like super cheap ones on Etsy. And like, fuck, how do they sell them so cheap? Oh, of course, they import them from China. And once again, I was right back there at the, China can beat out, my business. The same thing happens, as I said, with guitars. The video I watched that I was going to mention, they were talking about a parts caster, is what they call it. There's a Fender Telecaster, for those who aren't guitar savvy. Fender Telecaster was one of the first guitars, and electric guitars, and you can buy the parts to make your own guitar for like $150 on the Amazon and have it shipped to your door. The neck with the fretboard, the frets on it, all that stuff, the head like blank to cut however you want it to be. The body already finished and ready to go, or unfinished, but ready to be finished. I mean, sanded and everything. All the cavities cut out and all the components, all the parts to put a guitar together. And they call it a parts caster because it's based on the Stratocaster or the Telecaster. The point being that you can buy it really cheap for a couple $100. You have to do the finish work, but the video I was watching earlier, they were saying a lot of people who consider themselves boutique guitar makers actually are buying parts and selling them as a boutique or handmade guitar. That kind of bothers me. I can't help it. I know that everybody has a limit to their skills, but I think being extremely honest with it and saying, oh, by the way, the neck of this guitar came from China. This was a handmade guitar in America, but the neck came from China. And all the parts on it, including the fretboard, the frets, the radius on the fretboard. I mean, the time it takes to put a fretboard on a guitar is probably the most expensive part of it that I've found. This is the bass. I started this years ago. I never finished it. Finally got it done. And these frets that I polished up really nice, you can see how they shine evenly. That requires a radius sanding block along with hand polishing each fret and crowning them to make sure everything is perfect. Then you have to put your own bone nut in there. Then you have to level the bone nut down. Then you have to drill the holes, angle the head, do the different cuts. I mean, to actually put a neck in a guitar is a big pain in the ass. And it's so much easier to just buy one. And so here I am complaining about how other people do shit. But the point is that as a boutique guitar, a lot of people who sell mass-produced guitars can sell them for $10,000. It's crazy. Just because it has a name on it, or a specific model, or it's really, really shiny and people like it. Even if you had the very best pickups, the very best hardware on it, it shouldn't be that much. But it is, and that's what makes it hard for small guys to compete with the big guys as well. Here, it seems like I'm going off about China more than anything else, but it's not China. It's just that other places can make things for cheaper, and it's very hard to find a niche audience to buy things that are willing to pay what something's worth, because we don't trust each other. Like, who am I? Some random guy who builds guitars on the internet. I don't have a brand name. Nobody's going to know Carpo's guitars, right? So I'm going to have to build that from the ground up. And I feel like I really have to stick with it this time. It's the same way with boxes. And I've shown this, like things like this before that I made. This is just a jewelry box I made for my wife. It's oak and walnut. Then it's got like a top layer of like 1/4 inch of resin. And then some like little gears in there. Dovetail joints. Everything was handmade here, right? You could buy something like this at some world market for like, probably $50. Of course, it wouldn't be handmade in America, or maybe not have the same detail, but most people are content, maybe even $30 or $20. I mean, this probably took me 5 or 6 hours, not even including the material and the time to research and draw how I wanted to do it, and all the drawers and everything, and make sure they fit. So even if you want to get $20 per hour, that makes it really hard to charge. Oh, I need to charge $150 or $200 for a box. You know what I mean? At Saturday market, places like that, people do, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just complaining. Maybe I'm just saying, oh, I believe art should be a certain way. And maybe I'm virtue signaling. I don't know. It kind of feels like it a little bit, but that's okay too. Because I want to have pride in the things that I do, and I'm hoping that I can turn guitar making into a business. I think it would be phenomenal, but I don't know how to get from A to B. And it's funny, not just the show, a different video I was watching, they were talking about scammers and how easy it is to get ripped off right now online, especially if you're selling a guitar that's a couple $1,000s. And you have these Craigslist type scammers that'll be like, oh yeah, I'll buy your guitar, and then you send it. They say they never got it. They file a dispute. It becomes this issue where you end up losing your money, and you're paying a fee to sell it. Another aspect of selling art online is that you have to deal with places like Etsy or eBay, where you have to pay them a fee, or just to sell your shit. Then you have to pay a fee in order to get paid to use PayPal or something, and they only allow certain sales of certain items. And as a Kratom vendor, believe me, I've learned that one the hard way. I had my PayPal account frozen for 6 months once because I was selling Kratom. And so even though I was being super careful, some of my customers did not read the fine print and say, please do not mention it in the purchase. But whatever happens, happens. And so that's kind of a general I guess this video would have been a complaint about cheaply manufactured things, a complaint about liars or cheats, as well as a posturing about, I make guitars and I'm a carpenter. But as an artist, we have the right to at least kind of have a little self-pride in what we do, right? As I said with the jewelry, I've spent hundreds of dollars. I don't even want to dare say I've spent $1,000 or more on materials to make all this resin jewelry. I have 4 boxes of different bracelets up there, as well as an entire rack of like 40 different necklaces I made. Most of them are made out of shelf fungus. So I took shelf fungus from the woods, ones that were dying or dead, took them home, dried them out for like a year or 2, and then I sliced them into slices and then added resin to it. I've shown them before. Like, this is actually one of the ones I made. This has a piece of dinosaur bone, fossilized dinosaur bone cut to a teardrop inside of resin in a teardrop. And inside of that resin I have 2 rare types of lichen with little flowers on the top. And in the middle, this was one of my subscribers sent me this. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's a nice, beautiful piece of opal right here. And if you are the subscriber that sent me this, please mention it in the comments so I can say thank you properly. So I've got opal on fossilized dinosaur bone that I found in Montana, and that's inside of resin and then set with hematite and bone with a nice clasp on there. All the jewelry I've made, I've spent a lot of time on. I've used quality material. I've done all my best research to find out and make sure that it's strong, that it's going to hold, that it's not like the necklaces I bought where they just fall apart in a freaking week. I wanted something that was durable and strong. I've used Kevlar thread, all different types, but I didn't want something that was going to rip your neck off. You know what I mean? Because you could use strong wire, but then if your necklace gets caught, it could harm you. So it's like a balance. You want it to break before it breaks your skin. All the research I did into that jewelry, I made a shitload of necklaces. I have them all strung up on a big rack, and I still haven't sold fucking any of them. I took them to a fish show. I think I sold a couple, but I haven't put in the effort. And I know already there's a couple of you out there who are like, fuck you, Josh. You told me you were going to put them up for sale forever ago. Because I did. I put them on my website, but I never went through and individually labeled each one. So here's what I'm going to be doing. Hopefully setting up a separate website where I can sell the jewelry, have each one listed by itself. By the way, somebody can help me with that. The whole website thing would be great. I had somebody who helped me before, and it was phenomenal because I'm not that great at setting it up. Sell the jewelry on there, sell some of my woodworking stuff. I have a bunch of meditation benches. I wanted to sell these too. See? This is one of my inventions. I used like a 15-degree slope. This is a piece of, I think, Purple Heart here. But you can see there's a 15-degree angle on it. It has two legs, and this one's one of the models. It's got my old above the level carpentry tag on it. I didn't plug this one, but the other ones are either plugged or I used pocket screws, different methods. I have one where the legs fold down, and that was going to be like my main model, and I was going to ship them out with little, what they call puja tables that you can sit down, and these are kneeling benches, so your thigh goes here and your knee goes around the front, and I think they're great. Here I am, showing off all my shit. But I wanted to because I wanted to make the point that once I get the website up and running, once I get my shit together, once I start having the confidence to actually sell my own stuff again, I feel like I have a lot of stuff to sell. I mean, I have a ton of stuff that I've made, and I've realized, and I've been analyzing this and realizing it's just, I'm not motivated to sell things, and I feel weird asking for money for things. I've always been too nice. I'm always the guy who gives away shit, basically. Like, oh, here, just take it for $5. Even though it took me like hour to make, 2 hours to make. It's like, well, just have it for free, And I want to be that guy. But I want to be able to do that because I'm financially secure and do the art for the sake of art. And that brings me full circle back to starving artists syndrome, which is where a lot of people are at. They make things, they're trying to compete with cheaper made things, and they don't know how to market what they do have without getting ripped off by Etsy or eBay or being an Amazon seller. People want to just start their own little business. It's almost like, I'm sure there are some, but I was going to say, why aren't there websites just specifically that are actually meant, like open source website hosting for people who want to sell stuff on their own? For those who just work at a regular job and have never sold things, the credit card issue with payment processors is the reason as a Kratom vendor I can't accept anything except check or money order. So I get literally mailed old school check and money orders. Then I have to process that and send out their order. That's just how it is because they've cut off access to certain payment processors for vendors of certain herbs. It's the same way that, and off topic here, but the cannabis growers, cultivators have to only deal in cash, and they have to literally drive their cash in vans down to pay their taxes because the banks won't deal with them. So they have to drive it down to the state to pay their taxes and their revenues and fees. And the cops have been targeting these vans knowing they're coming from the grow operations, and since it's federally illegal, there's nothing they can do about it. Crazy story. But that's another angle of this. They're boutique, the people who grow cannabis, boutique cannabis gardens, the people who do things that are outside the mainstream norm, who want to actually show. There's artists who do things for the sake of the art. Then there are the capitalists, let's say, who just want to make money, so they make something as crappy as they can. To me, I know part of me not selling my stuff is because I'm slightly insecure. That clasp is never quite tight enough, or that knot is a little off, or wait, oh, I just need to sand this edge down a little bit more, or oh, that guitar I just need a different set of pickups, or oh no, there's a little mark on the back of the neck, like where I had a problem here, so I can't fix that. Oh, I can't sell that. There are so many excuses for an artist. Slap yourself if you're one of those people, if you know what I'm talking about. And anyway, that's my ramble about art. And I'm definitely going to be putting this shit up for sale. I hope it does well. I hope I can get at least, what do I ask for a guitar like that, right? $500, $1,000, $2,000. I don't even know what something like this is worth. I wanted to show you the one. This is the funkiest thing. The one I built yesterday that I just put together. This is a bass guitar with a piece of old fir, or pine, sorry, from an old pine table. And I roughed it up on purpose with a wire brush. It doesn't have any of the holes cut yet, but it's definitely going to be a bass. It's got a little volute here, and I just attached this rosewood fretboard along with the fretboard is on top of a zebra wood neck. It has a really good joint. It has a beautiful kerf joint. It's been a few weeks in process here and there, and it's not even that far. It's like you do an hour here, an hour there. To put something like this up for sale, for me, I'm going to be very proud if I can sell it. But it's very difficult to feel like the things I make are adequate to sell for a price high enough to make an artist make more money than somebody working at McDonald's. No offense to anyone at McDonald's, but you know what I mean. It's, as a final note, something I want to add in here. One of the things that is often forgotten with the cost of art, and I think this message goes specifically to the purchasers of art or creativity. I make functional art. I like to make things that work. That's why I like doing cabinets, or I like making guitars or jewelry, things that you can wear. I don't really care for just stationary art as much. But that's just an observation, I guess, of what I make. I like things that people will be proud of and use. When a person looks at, let's just say, a guitar or a box or even, some jewelry, they look at the item and they think, okay, here's the cost of materials. Well, the rubies in that ring didn't cost very much. Or just the rubies and the gold alone, the value really isn't that much. And jewelry is an extreme example because the markup is extremely high. The thing that's often left out and forgotten is, how many tools does it make? I think, probably $3,000 or $4,000 worth of power tools that I've collected over 20 years, working as a carpenter. Probably more than that. Routers and my table saws, $900, I think, and it just adds up from there. I bought a lot of it secondhand, but the actual value of the stuff is, it's difficult to acquire all the different hand tools. You need a drill bit? No, you need every size of drill bit. You need a file? No, you need different types of files. You need every little, different screw and nut and bolt known to mankind, and Allen wrenches and all this shit. And like I said, I just added up all the costs this morning of how much I've spent already on my guitar shit, and it was like over $800, and I've just been buying moderate shit. That's including the wood, the pickups, the tuners, all this, and I really, really started looking at this differently than I ever have before. I'm not going to try to compete with the big guys. I'm just going to do my best to create functional art that I think is valuable in its own right. And who knows? I probably won't sell the first couple I made, but maybe they'll be collector items. Hey man, if my business ever makes it off the ground and I become a famous guitar, luthier in the future, hey man, if you buy one of the first guitars, you'll have a collector's item. I'll even send each one with a certificate of authenticity. Of course I will. My plan is to actually write out, a handwritten certificate of authenticity for each one, explaining what types of wood were used, what I was thinking when I made it, the idea behind it. I don't like cookie cutter shit. I like unique things. And maybe that's arrogant to think that, I like unique things. I don't care. I do. I like unique things. I'll show you the last one that I didn't show you, I guess, since this video's gone on forever. I'm still wiring up this pickup cavity right here, so it has some issues, but all the wiring's pretty much done. It's just that I had a couple of loose wires. It's got a 3-way switch, 4 knobs, and the outlet, the plate's actually upside down right now. But it's got these 2 humbucker pickups from a company called Wilkinson, which I was a little skeptical about at first, but it's a great company. I mean, I love these pickups. They were phenomenal. It's got a Purple Heart fretboard, and then I made the head and the neck, which is a through neck, all out of maple. So that's it with the finish. So now at least get an idea of what they look like. So if you are a guitarist and you want to buy one, I would be more than happy to commission something, make something custom for people. So that's what I got. And I wanted to talk about art and kind of brag about my shit. Let you all know that I'm going to be putting stuff up for sale eventually here. I think it's time. 2022 is going to be the year. Going to make some shit happen. And you can too. If you've ever wanted to make something, if you've ever wanted to create something, don't be scared away with the fact that you don't have the right tools. I've seen 2 guys go out in the woods and make a guitar, literally with hand tools in the woods. And it was beautiful. You just got to know what you're doing. The skills that you learn are much more valuable than any tools, because you learn how to cut corners in certain places. And I'm not talking about shortcuts cheapening something. I'm saying, why use sandpaper when you could use a grinder first, then sandpaper? There's a lot of time-saving things that you can do. And I'm still learning these. It's like every time you do something, you're learning new things. And to me, I get in the zone when I'm making stuff. So my goal is really just to embrace what I'm doing. And if I can get in the zone and just forget about time, and next thing I know it's dark, then that's a good thing to me. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I appreciate you listening if you've made it this far in my ramble. And keep an eye out. I'll let you know when I post shit up on the website. Maybe I'll just do it on my Carpo's Botanicals website, because I do have a website for my herbs and mushroom blends and crate. So I don't know if I'll put them on there. I kind of wanted to keep it separate, because if I can't use credit cards on that website. Complicated issue. Long story. And yeah, that's about it. I'll talk to y'all next time. Thank you to my patrons especially, because I haven't said that in a while. So thanks to my patrons. If you want to be a patron to get some extra content, I post links to videos that I don't always make public on YouTube on there. And I'd also like to say, if you do want to visit my guitar channel, that's right, I have Carpo's Carpo Craft Woodworking Guitars. That's probably in the description or link. I don't know. Fuck, whatever. Anyway, late. Peace. Talk to you next time. Hit subscribe and all that.